So, okay, hey everyone. We're about a couple minutes from running the intro real quick, but I just thought you'd say hi to Chuck before that. Say hi to Chuck.
Hello, everybody.
And so, yeah, we got a fun show, a lot of interesting stuff. The fun thing about this is always, whenever I chat with, there's like a couple. I love all my guests equally. Maybe not equally, but close to it. I love them all. However, there's like just a couple who I have to like make plans in the evening for immediately after, or I would do this till the sun comes up, and then people would unsubscribe from my channel. It could be like an 8-hour long podcast because there's always like just the next level of like, oh, but then this, and then the depth in that, and then oh, but what if this, and then real estate of the mind, and just like it starts going on, and like Chuck is one of those very few special characters who's who could always take me there. And
well, I've always found our conversations most enjoyable, Joel. I definitely appreciate that.
Not just enjoyable, but like not a short and sweet enjoyable. Like oh shit, like my parking's up, I'm about to get towed, I gotta leave, sorry.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And so
long form, the server wants us to pay and get the hell out of here kind of conversations.
Yeah. Folagi Johnson says, hi Fo, says, always love a bit of Chuck. Everyone loves a bit of Chuck. That nice prime Chuck steak right there. How could you not love that? Got a little weird. But
how much Chuck would a Chuck up Chuck if a Chuck could up Chuck? That's how I remember my name.
47 is the answer. Just in case you guys are wondering. Make it another minute or two for a couple other people to jump on. But yeah, when you messaged me about this stuff. So first off, I had a cancellation, and I was like, Chuck hasn't been on for a little while. Let me just ask him right away, and then, of course, graciously answer and saved my ass, which is great. Thank you. But also, you had a bunch of stuff you wanted to talk about too, which is not like, oh yeah, sure, I'll come on your show. Let's see what we're going to talk about. It's just like, I was also thinking about this and that, and then the other thing. And I'm just like, great, let's do it. Like,
all right, yeah.
There's like more stuff to like go on. And on a little bit of on quite the tangent note, I'm sure. That's kind of a beautiful way to live your life, is to always have like stuff that is like on your mind that just like excites you. It's not just like, it's fine to be nice and content. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. It's fine. Life's going great. But then there are things like, dude, what if this other thing? What if this thing? Like, I believe that at some point, that childlike wonder of just, there's this awesome thing and I want to just tell someone about it, is something that when that dies, that's when the mind starts to like go downhill. And sometimes it starts, when you're in your 20s, sometimes it starts when you're in your 50s or whatever. But like when you stop being just like, dude, this thing, then, that's kind of a sad direction. But like, that's kind of how you stay young. Obviously, physically, like always, like never stop moving. But then mentally, if you're not, you have to be mentally sharp, like play, do complex things with your brain, keep it like awake and alive, but also the spirit, the heart. If you're not just, that's the thing that I find a lot of people who retire or just don't have it in them anymore from like combat sports, from any sports, from being like a CEO or a business owner, from just anything in life, that spark is just dies, is gone. And they just don't have that anymore. And as long as you have that day in and day out, you find a way of like making it a renewable resource. I think you could be pretty cool.
Yeah. That you're talking I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza and Jordan Peterson, and you're talking like that ties into some other studies of human design and masculinity and polarity and all these other things that are non-crypto related that I've been exploring.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I think we've been a little bit ridiculous here. I think we've gotten like almost 6 minutes in. People are watching or they're not. Let's go hit the intro and be right at it. So, hey everyone, and happy Friday to you. I'm joined by the one and only, the only one that matters at least, Chuck Williams. How's it going, man?
Man, it's ups and downs and lefts and rights, and I'm in the vortex of life and trying to live it as best as I can, or at least allow it to live me. Depends on where you're at.
Well, you still seem to have that spice of life, which is, you're still kicking, still going.
Yeah.
It's all great. So we're going to have a good show today. There's a bunch of crazy stuff going on to talk about and a few rabbit holes to dive into. So if you're just into like the news and that kind of discussion, probably the first hour's there. But then after that, it starts to become off limits. So, or off road, I should say. It starts to just do the off-roading stuff. And so, that's when it's like, I won't be mad at anyone who on their other end, if they're still keep the tab open, even if you're just in your chair, you just take a dad nap in the chair. I won't mind. I should point you out to first off, if you're watching, I'm going to start doing a better job about this, asking people to hit the like button. There's 3 people watching right now, and they all need to hit the goddamn like button. Go for it, and subscribe and all that stuff. But also, if you are in my Discord, which by the way I have to go announce to people that we're live. You can go to the Digital Cash Rundown channel, and the little super chat will pop up, and you can just type in any questions at any time for Chuck or myself. It's the privilege of owning one of my NFTs. And there is a link in the description on how to buy the NFTs, although I will be overhauling all that stuff. Right now, it's just the wax collection thingy. But I have still sold some in there, so that's fine. So, that being said, let's hit on the first news topic of the day, which is... unsurprisingly, it's about Twitter and Elon Musk. But I'm not sure if unsurprisingly, Dogecoin price jumps 40% on Elon Musk, Twitter's crypto wallet rumors. So let's jump into this thing real quick. So Dogecoin rallied from, I don't care about the price, but roughly 40% 2 days after... there was a claim that Twitter's working on a wallet prototype that supports crypto. And so all this basically say, right? Elon Musk bought Twitter, and we'll go a little bit in it. Let me just hit on the Doge part of that real quick. The Doge part is just that he said Dogecoin to the moon, a bunch of stuff before. And people cannot stop speculatively pumping the crap out of that poor old coin every time Elon is mentioned in any kind of a way. Now, does Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter have anything to do with Dogecoin whatsoever? The answer is very likely no, right? And it's a little bit of a sad reminder of the crypto world we're in today, where it just, Daddy Elon did this, pump random token, and its utility didn't increase, its future prospects didn't increase. It just is what it is. I don't know if you disagree on that or have a different angle.
Well, I mean, it's like because of the way that the social sphere has gone between Elon showing up on Saturday Night Live and the Doge pump that happened before that, and now Elon being attached to Twitter in the way that he is, legally, ownership wise, and all those kinds of things. In the social consciousness, there is a connection between Doge and Twitter and Elon now. Like, they just kind of occupy the mainstream media consumer's mind in the same way, because it's all been kind of, I think, intentionally kind of munged together because I feel like there's a narrative.
Term? Is that
when you're talking in terms of like the Edward Bernays style of marketing and essentially messing with the brain, yes, munging is definitely a thing.
I did not. I learned something new every day. This is why I have you on the show, because I would have no idea what the hell munge meant.
Well, it's a technical term for advertisers. It's basically saying "fuck with the brain." So, pardon my language. Hope you don't have to bleep that.
No, it's okay. Say whatever the fuck you want on this podcast.
Right on. So that is the unfortunate reality now. It's unfortunate because it's not real. There is no real true connection between Doge and Elon and Twitter, other than complete speculation, hope, dreams, hype. It's all just really just unverifiable, stupid things. And even this article, what did this say? Like, I love how they do this. Like, they make it seem like it's all legit. As traders, yeah, Dogecoin's price rallied to its best levels in 2 months as traders assessed Twitter's potential to create a cryptocurrency wallet product. Okay, first off, how long they've been working on Edit, right?
Yeah.
And that's like what, in the A/B testing phases now, and nobody's really satisfied with it. A cryptocurrency wallet product is way more complicated than Edit. So if they want something fast, they're going to have to partner with somebody who's got a decent wallet product. Who would that be? Like, that's going to have the level of experience that they would want. I don't know, maybe Exodus?
Edge wallet,
really?
hopefully.
Edge would be good, yeah, maybe. I mean, there's not a whole lot of UX focused wallets out there. That was my whole history with Dash. Like,
Of course.
that's
not a lot of gender sliders out there in the wild,
right. And it's just my point being, it's not easy, first off, because UX is not easy, and a product needs good UX to have a good product market fit. And while I agree that there is a very strong possibility that Twitter could be successful with the integration of a cryptocurrency wallet product, I think that it's going to be gimmicky and, very much like Venmo's version of, hey, you can buy cryptocurrency, but you can't transfer it out. I feel like it's just going to be another trap. It's a trap. It's just going to be another one of those for the world of people who just so they can claim, oh yeah, I bought some Bitcoin. Oh yeah, did you buy it on Venmo though? Because that's not real Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're going to do that with I bought new Dogecoin on Twitter. Okay, no, that didn't happen. You bought ledger entries in a database that you can't control because you can't transfer your Dogecoin out. And maybe they'll be able to tip it, but the thing is, like, what's the value proposition? Why are they? Is it just hype that they're hopping onto? Are they going to actually do something innovative with it? Are they going to allow tipping? Because that's going to open up some SEC and CFTC issues that I'm sure nobody wants to stir up, at the higher echelons of Twitter. So, Dogecoin rally, whatever. If you want to make that the story, fine. But that's just examples of hype in my mind. And
unfortunately, it is the story.
Stupid connections. Yeah,
but
I know.
That's kind of a fun thing to point out exactly where we are in the system right now, and the life cycle of cryptocurrency is people just we have a 40% pump of something whose utility has fundamentally not changed and its prospects have not changed. And it just kind of goes to show you that we're kind of there. I do want to kind of meld that into the greater thing. So first off, to address the concerns you're talking about with all the problems with doing the wallet and all the regulations and stuff. So Elon comes in, he buys Twitter finally. He instantly fires the chief censor person and the CEO and stuff. And a lot of and there was much rejoicing. Yay, Monty Python reference, of course.
Right. He gets to look like a fan of freedom and free speech. Yeah.
Yeah, and he probably is. I mean, I take him at his word. However, he's still talking about he's trying to get a moderation council together. There is one. He's trying to make sure the makeup is of a diverse set of opinions across all politics and backgrounds, rather than just the way it was before. And I think that's a valiant effort. However, it still underscores he's in the suck. He's in this situation where he's got this the wild freedom of online tech expression, but under a corporate responsibility structure that's well, you can't just say whatever, I don't care, people put beheading videos. No, you gotta moderate some stuff, but then you just need this council. And that's I'm not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg by any stretch of the imagination, but I did feel pity for the man when I heard him on the Rogan podcast talking about just all how Twitter has to have more of government involvement than most governments itself. Like they have like they have a counterterrorism unit that's bigger than any other country than except for like the US basically. It's just all this insane stuff that just comes with the territory of building something huge but not having it in like a free flowing structure to where you're still at a company trying to like run a company and you're responsible for this. So I don't expect great innovation to come out of Twitter beyond where it is now because of that.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I just want to fold onto the Doge connection, which it's much more of a zeitgeist, kind of like how people loved Trump despite him not standing for any of the things they stood for, but they just love this like stick it to the man idea. And in the same way, I think Elon represents anything is possible for a lot of people because he's this dude who didn't just become a billionaire and just sit on his empire and grow it. He just is like, I'll do anything. We can go to Mars. We go to this. Electric cars. Who cares? Buy Twitter. He's just like, Mr. Anything is possible. And
he's a cult of personality for sure.
Yeah, but not just that, like whether or not he intended to be. And I think he is. The thing is, because of the way he speaks, the way he's just has a sense of humor, all that kind of stuff, he just seems like a regular guy who still could do anything. And that taps into the average regular guy person who says, I could do anything because he's just like me, yet here he's doing literally anything. It's like he's broken out of the matrix. And Doge is kind of like it kind of comes from the heyday of, I mean, Doge has been around way longer than that, but it kind of comes from the heyday of the game stonks where it's just like, you know what? We can meme pump ourselves with no real reason. We can just meme pump ourselves into fabulous wealth. And Doge is that for people that they're like, it's this freedom of like, we can do it, like dream big. You can do anything you want. It's just like, this is our stupid little dog coin, but what if it's the global money and we're all rich and okay? Like, and so that's what people are tapping into in my view.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some of that. And what do they, I mean, and that kind of like there's a whole bunch of cultures that are now forming around crypto. What's this degen culture that's kind of, out there? And, you got your gamer communities and you got your programmer communities and you got your cryptographic, geek blockchain developer kind of communities. But the thing is, like, all of these people, all of these groups, are lacking in leadership and cohesion. And Elon does that for a lot of people. I think in those groups, he's like the ultimate Uber geek who's like the rich entrepreneur that, so he checks a lot of the boxes that make him famous, a cult of personality, somebody that people want to love and respect, and to emulate, and admire. And those are all the things that you need to be a good leader, I think, if you're going to, lead a movement. But the challenge that I have with Elon and Doge and a lot of this kind of mentality is the degree to which people are emotionally moved by hype. Just like you said. I mean, you evoked it very well there. We can rule the world if we just meme our way to the truth. Like, yeah, okay, there is something to that. You're reflecting some truth and you're putting it out there and you're trying to gain a movement around it. Like I completely respect that from a philosophical and cultural and social aspect. But what's missing is critical thinking. What's missing is individual thought, the individuality, and reminding people that the truth is within. That message is dying a very painful and torturous death out there. That you need to seek inward to find the real truth, and that is manifesting in so many different ways. People are getting scammed because they think that the truth is out there. That somebody shows up in your Telegram with, "Hey, I have a business investment opportunity for you," and there's still a percentage of people who are forking over money to random people because they think they know better, that the truth is out there, and they're not listening to their own emotions of caution and distaste and mistrust and envy
Yeah.
or whatever, So getting swept up in these movements, and being led by these cult of personalities into things is always a cautionary, or I have learned to be cautionary about those kinds of things for sure.
Yeah. And it's also kind of interesting because people like Musk are on their own path. They're doing their own things that they want to do. And a lot of people read things into that were not intended. They're like, he's doing this. He's doing his own thing. Okay. He's not doing your thing as much as you'd like to think he's doing your thing. It's kind of interesting how
but he's going to make you think that he's doing your thing by the way he talks about his thing.
I would say let you think. Because it's more, I don't know if he's fighting the perception, but I don't know if he's leading it either. But that's the same thing as like at some point, we lose control of ourselves to the public perception. Not really ourselves, our actual selves, but we lose control over like the artistic interpretation of like what this is, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Like people.
Yeah, no, right. To some degree, your identity, your public identity is assigned by the public.
Yes, the icon that is Musk is far outside of his control at this point. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way it is. We did get a super chat comment from the one and only Hilawe. He says, first off, Chuck saw the future with the gender slider. Yes, it's very, very like next level thinking. You're already there, and they were not ready to hear your words at the time.
They weren't. Nobody was.
A prophet before his time. But Hilawe says, Elon seems to be pushing Web3-like features almost immediately for Twitter, it seems. The calls for regulations will be loud, but they were just screaming, it's a private company, a few months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, Elon, like a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen, is very tapped into the current hot thing in the market, right? And maybe he's trying to get ahead of it by saying, hey, we need to be on some Web3 stuff now, right? And I think it's appropriate and legitimate for somebody who's just acquired a company that is kind of behind in a lot of innovation. This could help them get a leapfrog ahead in terms of the social media sphere if they can deliver a successful Web3 product. But I think that's only gonna, if whatever they deliver, they're gonna be hamstrung, I think, very quickly by the regulators, because whatever they do, I mean, because they're so centralized and that honeypot is so sweet to the government, they're going to want their siphon in whatever that product is. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it without KYC, because if they don't do the KYC, you're not going to be able to play the game, basically, because you're going to be a money transmitter at some point. And the government's not just going to let Twitter be the funnel for value transactions, as a social platform. I mean, we tried to do this at Float, right? And it's we had a Bitcoin wallet and we integrated with MetaMask, and when I was doing the UX research around the process of acquiring tokens and using those tokens on the platform, there are many points of failure that if Twitter can solve, then they will actually have an innovative product. But I just don't think they're going to be allowed to solve them because of the KYC, and we were trying to do it without KYC, but that means the user has to take on the risk of acquiring tokens for the most part. And so unless Twitter is going to issue a token along with this product and, make that some kind of fair distribution, the regulators are going to regulate.
What if they just decide that their token is going to be Dogecoin?
Now, see, that would actually be more likely to be successful than issuing their own, because they could very easily argue, well, it's as evenly distributed as any other cryptocurrency, so we're just going to use that one. And then many, oh my God, that would create flame wars all over the place. People would be
Oh,
happy and ecstatic, upset. Doge would blow up.
yeah.
People would be going dumpster diving for their old Doge, crypto token on that thrown away hard drive.
Yeah, I have a fraction of a Doge, and of course, Hilawe also says they may have to use something like BitPay to avoid money transmitter rules, but then it's not pure Web3.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah,
that is
I mean,
true.
that's the thing. They're so centralized and they're so big that they would have to create a walled garden, and only certain people would be able to play. They wouldn't be able to do it like real cryptocurrency where anybody can play. So right there, you lose a huge part of the value proposition of, cryptocurrency and the integration of cryptocurrency into online, interfaces, which is, what they're billing as Web3. I had hoped Web3 would go a little further, with, let's say self-sovereign identity, but, maybe we're going to have to do Web 4 or 5 for that.
Or full. I mean, Dorsey's already on 5, so maybe I have to start at 6.
Right.
The
We
way
should
it
bump up
goes.
to 6.
Well, speaking of all that stuff, this is a weird headline, but investors are loving the SEC's crypto industry crackdown, according to a survey. Critics have called out the SEC's regulation by enforcement tactics, but to some investors, it's a positive sign they're seeing to invest in digital assets. I mean, not for me at all, but this is, according to 60% of 564 survey respondents in the latest MLIV Pulse survey, they said the recent flurry of crypto crackdowns is a positive sign for investing in the class. It seems that the 2/3 of them said they were more likely to invest with greater enforcement against crypto, compared to 56% of
Right.
professional investors. So basically, this thing indicates that investors, which aren't users necessarily, usually not, maybe even, but that they're they like the idea that crypto's safer and more regulated because I would say, I mean, the cynical take is that they think that daddy government has to regulate everything, and then that makes it safe. And since it's not regulated, it's not safe. My more optimistic take on that is, while that might be true for a lot of investors, I also think a lot of them are just waiting to see how bad crypto regulation can get because they don't want to throw all their money into something if they know the government's going to come around and just ruin the whole thing and then they lose their money. They're waiting to see how far the government will go, and then they gauge if it's still worth investing or not. They're kind of like the government is kind of like the risk in this situation. It's not that the government is a remover of risk. It's just by the government being less of a wild card, they view that as less risk. And so they can actually be safely invest and not be criminals is kind of the idea.
Yeah. And that's a pretty succinct way to put it. But, the way that I try to put it in principle is, business owners, people who have grown up in this investment environment since, let's say, 1981, anybody who's been investing since 1981, which is the majority of investors, anybody who's been trading in markets since then, anybody who's been investing in real estate, anybody who's been working with money, anybody who's been analyzing macroeconomic moves, and also manages a business or manages people or is responsible for paying people salaries, a lot of entrepreneurs of those natures. The mindset of those people is that you don't want it to be such a free market that assassinations are legal. That's something that I feel like that's the worst case scenario for a lot where it's anybody can do anything. That scares people who want predictability and control in their lives, which is your average, let's say, type A personality who's going to run a business, paying people salaries, investing for the future, building capital, those kinds of things.
Also,
and therefore,
the boomers.
Yes, and
Because
definitely the boomers.
It is kind of the complete opposite point of the previous one of Doge and Elon, where they represent just like the the Harambe era of just the space time continuum's ripped open, anything can happen. Trump can become president. Oh my gosh, he just out of nowhere, and then just
Right.
Elon like anything's possible. Like they love that risk because it's kind of funny. And this, God damn it, this is like such another 8-hour discussion point, but it's kind of the separation of mindset between the younger and the older generations, not by virtue of them being young or old, but where they came up in the world, where the older people are thinking, I need stability, I need, predictability, these kinds of slow and steady wins the race. Whereas the younger generations don't believe that. They don't believe that the system will allow them to be successful. So they'll take they love those wild, risky moments because that's all they got. They can't do the slow and steady according to their mindsets. So that's kind
and
of
you hit the nail on the head
separation.
There. And there's so many interesting like aspects to that, like, Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. Boomers have own 80% of the wealth in America. Like it's something like that. It's a very surprisingly high amount of real estate assets and value and bank accounts that the boomers still actually own, So you look at the millennials and the young people who come up, and the boomers, the institutions worked for them. They came from a version of chaos, built their whole institutional structures, and that made lives better for them. But now the institutions are oppressive and a drain on society for the millennials, and nobody can get ahead. And productivity has gone through the roof as income has stayed flat. So all that money that has been capitally invested is just going back into the boomers' pockets because they're getting all the productivity gains from all the millennials who are working at these higher levels of productivity, but not getting ahead because they're not earning any of the wages from those higher levels of productivity. And this is happening systemically. Rents are going up, new employees are being hired at higher rates than old employees have sat, and old employees, young millennials who started at the age of 20 are now 30, and maybe they're 10 years into a company. They have gotten 2% and 4% increases, and then new kid comes in who's hungry, and because of the market, they're coming in 10, 20% above a person who's got 10 years tenure on them. So it's like, none of this, it's not making sense. The system's breaking down for the average person, and these investor groups are in a particular niche where they're in a bubble of their own, where those institutions have worked for them, and they expect for that continued safety, and so they don't look outside of the boundaries. And that's why I just feel like this is just a statement as to the level of conditioning that these investors are at. Because here's the thing, 20% of your gains or 80% of the gains of any group come from 20% of your population. And I think that we're seeing a little bit of Pareto here. You've got a majority, 65 and 60% of these investors who are happy to see this regulation. Okay, but what about the 40% who do not look at this as a positive sign? What if they're vehemently against this, and what if they're right? And there's a very strong possibility that those people who look at these kinds of government controls as a negative, contrary to the spin on this article, they might be right, in my opinion. And I'm definitely on that camp. I'm just going to disagree. Look, how often has listening to the experts like Jim Cramer and all these other traditional institutional investors, how often has it helped me? How often has it helped the average person? Did it help anybody in the financial crisis of 2008? Did it help anybody in the crash of 1981? Did it help any? No, nobody. None of these.
Nobody got helped.
Nobody got helped. None of the average person. And so, okay, nod your heads, be in agreement, and try to sell the story that government regulation is good, but who? Not for most of us who are sitting many layers down and away from the Fed's printed money that's going to be distributed through PPP loans, and you don't have to pay it back type of thing.
Yeah,
some of us got stimmy checks, and that's, it's just,
Well,
Whatever.
that definitely takes it to the next thing about like who are the 33%, who are the other third, and it's probably
Right.
something to do with stuff like this. So, SushiSwap to create 3 DAOs in Panama and Cayman in business restructuring. The proposal received 100% votes, establishing the DAO Foundation, Panamanian Foundation, and Panamanian Corporation for SushiSwap, the popular Ethereum-based DEX and AMM and stuff. So, the funny thing about this thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the other side of things. Is
Mm-hmm.
the 33% are investing in SushiSwap, for example. They're like
Right.
they're not
Yeah.
they're not taking into the let's just wait for it to be safe and regulated. They're
Right.
they're
They're
taking
looking for
this.
non-government sanctioned free market opportunities.
Yes. And whenever you hear these key words like structure, 3 separate entities, DAOs, Panama, Cayman Islands, these buzzwords start hitting. All that is just a giant middle finger to the U.S. government. That's literally what it is. You just start hearing these words, and it's just like, it's like, I'm sure like everyone's been in a situation where you're either chatting with
Well,
some friendly customer support person, or you're chatting with a business partner, or you're whatever the situation is. When lawyer speak starts creeping into those emails, you know it's like time for war, right? And
yeah,
that's kind
okay.
of what
While
this is.
I agree with you in principle, but I want to be careful because,
Yes.
if you want to eat healthy, you're not always going to raise a middle finger at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I'm angry at McDonald's for being McDonald's just because I want to eat healthy. I think this is more what this is about. It's like, no, I don't want to partake in your oppressive, horrible mental diet of coercion, government.
Mhm.
I'm going to go over here where there seems to be a little bit more catering to the free market. And that to me, that's just a reasonable choice. In the free market of government regulation, which is basically what they're doing when they decide to go under Cayman Island regulation or what was Panamanian, right? And what's interesting about that? I was just talking with somebody in the past couple of days who was looking at structuring opportunities. And I literally asked them, had they looked at international banking for their operation? Because they were having they were having a problem sustaining merchant credit card processors. They kept being dropped because their business was
Of course.
risky.
It's all sketch.
And I'm like, well, have you looked at Panamanian banks or Cayman Island banks and things like that? And they're like, well, if there's an opportunity, we would explore it. So I think that's just it. We assume that because we're Americans, we have to do all of our business in America. And, while that works for the majority of us, if you really want to go global and you really want to cater to opportunities, both financial and innovative, you may have to look outside of the U.S. government regulation in order to have some form of stability, because those island nations, those countries, they're not going to change as much as long as as it works in their favor.
Yeah.
And they're incentivized for the U.S. to drag their feet or just keep putting out these coercive, threatening. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cayman Islands and Panama fund these kinds of articles on Cointelegraph saying more, give us more pain, the beatings will continue until morale improves, those kinds of articles are what I think the Cayman Islands and Panamanian wealth managers should be promoting.
Yeah, of course. It's the alternative system, right? And
Right.
I think that it's the idea of let's go to the alternative system tends to be, before it was just you want an alternative system. In the context of something like this, where you have a decentralized, I don't know the details about SushiSwap, but I'm alleging decentralized protocol that does all this kind of stuff. The willingness to go to the Cayman Islands side of things is more of we'd rather not be anywhere, but the powers that be are going to come after us, so we need some sort of a a thing for protection until the old system blows over and we can just do what we've been doing all along.
That's
It's
right.
kind of like a belief
That's right.
in the new system, and it's just like lawyering up in the meantime to just protect yourself from the old until it's time, until the transition goes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I mean, I hate to say it, but you know, I think the writing's on the wall with the U.S. dollar. You know, I think most experts agree that the dollar is not going to be the reserve currency in 10 years, and so people are starting to make their moves. You know, on that timeline, people are looking at that timeline, and you know, as the dollar falls, so will the coercive power of the United States government. And so the government is going to have to revert back to its old days when they were like, "Hey, give us your tired and your poor because we ain't got nothing else," kind of attitude. Because they've regulated it all away. You know, all the best ideas, all the best employees, all the most fruitful workers, knowledge workers of the world are going to check out, and it's going to be international at that point, and that's where the real market is going to continue to happen. And you know, that's I think these institutional investors are stuck in the old path, and I think these SushiSwap folks are trying to blaze a trail on the new path. And you know, Dash was there too. Like the Dash DAO was a New Zealand trust. You know, that wasn't based in America, but it was a Delaware corporation that was owned by that trust, you know. So, but just again, making it an international entity, you know. So that's, I think, where we're going to head to the future. And governments I think are starting to see this. Governments like the Caymans and there's a bunch of, like, I want to say St. Kitts,
Of course.
St. Michael's, like all these island nations. You know, a lot of international, and you know what? I know that tribal nations are getting in on this too. You know, the Native American tribes, the sovereign nations of America, the tribes around the world, they're starting to tap into this opportunity also to allow international global presences to headquarter in their places, again, to raise the middle finger at the IRS or whatever other, you know, coercive governmental tax beast is after them, you know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. It's kind of funny about the old system dying, but it's not gone yet, because this is something that didn't show up on my crypto Twitter feed. I saw this elsewhere, someone else sharing this article from like the political side of things. But so then I scrolled down and I was like, I noticed something that really stuck out to me. So these are the mega donors pumping millions into the 2022 midterm elections. These are like the big ones. Of course, top individual donor, no surprise, George Soros, right?
I want to vomit when I see him.
I mean, it's called aging, dude. Just relax.
The things that I know he's done.
Yeah. But for risk of doing all this stuff, so you go all the way down and all of a sudden you see this guy here at number 5. The only young guy of the whole thing, Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, cryptocurrency executive and an investor. And he's 30 years old. So he's got to be younger than me, right? he's a kid. He's just a baby, right? And he's throwing in 40 million so far of his own money into these Democratic Party PACs. And 2 million of those are into the GMI PAC, which supposedly supports pro-cryptocurrency candidates, but the rest is Democratic House majority stuff and some other, you know, protect our future and all this kind of stuff. So this man, right, is an anomaly in this thing. Where are the other rich crypto people? No, these are all old traditional investor type people. This is a young crypto dude. He's the only one I see in this mega donor list. That doesn't mean other people aren't doing things. Like, for example, Coinbase with, you know, Brian Armstrong are kind of adding in election information into the Coinbase app so people can see who in their area is like pro crypto or not pro crypto, so they can kind of like vote accordingly, which is ballsy move and stuff. But this case, you have this one guy, and I'm sure we've seen this story a million times in like the media and like movies and stuff. The guy who screws over the good guys, he's always the Judas. Right? This is the Judas, because this is like the crypto world is young and new. They're trying to do things differently than everything else. They're young. It's just a new wave, and they're fighting against that old system. And then here we have the anomaly. This one guy who is betraying the crypto world by being on the side of the system and the regulation. He put out this big thing we talked about, was it last week or a couple weeks ago, about this big regulation thing that he believes that crypto should be regulated in all these kinds of ways. He kind of leaned into that. And I believe what he's trying to do is, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. I think he's trying to sell out the space and fold it into the old evil system, as long as he gets to sit atop that. And FTX is coming out with its own stablecoin offering now too. So meet the new bank, same as the old bank. There's a lot of things that are lining up here, and this is looking kind of a little bit villainous. But anyway, I'd like to see what you think about that stuff.
Well, I would have more respect for this guy, Sam, if what you described is actually true. But I think it's probably a little bit more simplistic than that. My thinking is that people like Sam are living in a conditioned state. They have been conditioned by their environment, by their families, by society, to think these really, really, let's say, first order types of thoughts that don't think beyond consequences immediately affecting them, such as, oh, Bitcoin wastes energy. Cryptocurrency should be regulated. Oh, government is how we make decisions. We all opted into this. Those kinds of thoughts are conditioned thoughts that in those kinds of conditioned minds receive no attention because they are foregone conclusions. And I would love to sit in a room and ask him, first off, I would confirm whether or not those are his beliefs, because this kind of behavior that he's displaying here, this donating of this kind of money, basically speaks all of those things. Yes, we need this. Yes, we need that. This, I agree with this. It's, to me, it smells like communism,
Of course.
And of course they're not going to agree with it, or maybe they do, and they might even think communism's a good idea because, again, conditioned. They're not capable of thinking of the second order consequences of those kinds of things, and they won't look at how much energy is wasted on the Fed and protecting the dollar. How the immense, just basic electricity powering all the computers for people who work at banks and the Fed. In comparison to the security offered by the banks and the Fed and the IRS. The number of breaches and outages and downtimes and failures between the Fed and the IRS and all the money managing agencies compared to the amount of outages that Bitcoin has had, seems like a good trade-off for the energy to me, the energy expenditure. And that's just one simple little thing that conditions the minds of the likes of Sam, who play by the rules and get rewarded for playing by the rules. And so they think that the rules are good because they were rewarded for playing by the rules. And, it's almost unfortunate in a lot of cases because they don't get to develop a certain level of resilience for the changes that are obviously going to be coming. And when the changes come, it's going to be catastrophic because that is how hierarchies fail. And people like Sam will just be lost to history. All those millions that could have started hundreds of thousands of businesses that could have revolutionized the world and created better opportunities in the cryptocurrency space, just goes to support the old system and make the old system a little bit, last a little bit longer. It's really saddening to me. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Hilawe posted a super chat that unfortunately didn't show up on the screen, but just a picture of the NPC guy. So yes,
Yeah.
definitely in that old system. And also I think it's interesting to see that Sam Bankman-Fried also, his business model is a very good business model for today, but I don't know if it's going to last in the age of the DAO and the DEX and DeFi and all this other stuff. Where
Yeah,
like a
that's
fully
the thing.
decentralized thing, he's camping on it.
Demonstrating that he believes that the rules are good. You know, they are good. They are sacrosanct, and everybody should play by these rules because they work for me and they should work for everybody. You know, like that's basically his message with his money. That's what he's saying with his money.
Yeah, although I'm just getting this feeling that he's not. That's kind of dumb, right? And I'm kind of getting the impression he's not as dumb as he comes across. It's more evil than dumb. Like,
Right. That may be true. Yeah. And but
like,
I
think
go
he
to conditions.
sees he could just, because there's snake oil salesmen on the decentralized side too, who just like, oh,
yeah.
the super DAO of the this and the that and the blah blah blah, and you get all these tokens and whatever. And he built up not being in that part of the sector. And then now he's starting to see them starting to clash. So he's just trying to like, you know what? I'm going to just capture it all up in here and I'm going to be at the top. And I'd rather do that than just have to pivot, honestly, or even dishonestly pivot and do something like what Binance is doing. So I feel like Binance is the less Machiavellian version of FTX. It's the more pure version. I don't mean pure in a righteous way, by the way. He's a little bit of a
pure
prick
in
too.
what business entrepreneurial kind of way, right? That's
in a true neutral kind of a way, to use those, rather than a lawful evil kind of a way, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
To where where it's like, it's very like Ferengi, right? It's like very profit, just CZ's like, you know, rules of acquisition, just acquire, like just build more money. It doesn't care how centralized it is. Build it bigger.
And, the rules aren't working again. Okay, let's move. Rules aren't working again. Okay, let's move. You know, how many years have they done that?
And then at the same time, when they start to see the handwriting on the wall, as far as like, you know, DeFi and EVM chains and stuff, all that's going to work. He just like, we'll make our own Ethereum. It's better. It's decentralized, guys, totally. And like, he just laterally moved into the decentralized space, still keeping a complete centralized chain, right? And so it's basically an extension of the Binance company, of course. I mean, what a shocker! Oh, really? Oh. No, of course, duh. It's so obvious. But he's just evolving straight along, where he just sees crypto as a river of money, and he just has to follow the river of money wherever it goes, and he's going to be taken to riches, and that's it. Whereas SBF is kind of on the way, or let's just say Eric Voorhees is on the other side of things, where he's trying to remain on the righteous side of the river, or so to speak, whereas SBF is trying to dam off the river so he can control all its resources. He's trying to like, I'm going to dam it off. I'm in this part. I'm not going to follow it where it goes. It's going to follow where I go. It's like, look at me. I'm the one who knocks, right? So it's kind of interesting to see all these characters these figures in the crypto world, in their different little ways of interacting with this great, wonderful technology that we have before us. But hopefully, this is the last political thing I'll say on this show, because it's not what this is about. But from what I'm able to tell with the tea leaves, it's appearing that in the next couple of weeks in the U.S., there's going to be what they call a red wave, where the other side of the party, the Republican side, not the Democrat ruling party side, is poised to win big in a lot of ways that they have no business winning in. And so it's kind of like things go back and forth, the pendulum swings, and it seems like the pendulum is swinging away from SBF and the stuff he's putting money into. And so he might, if he gets hurt enough, right, or he gets enough egg on his face in the next couple of weeks with this whole thing, he might back off a little bit and just be content to be very successful in just the crypto world in a less regulated crypto world than he's trying to impose. It might end up being that way, or maybe
Well, it
it's hard
depends
to
on his
tell.
motivations. Like he might be gunning for a future presidential seat. He might be one of these people who's like, I can be president one day, and then I'll make all the rules. Like again, more conditioning, and this would be a path to that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe, but if I were to bet, I don't think he's at most he would do like an Andrew Yang thing to like keep relevant after he's done with his business stuff. Where I like right now, he's so free in that like he's a freaking kid with so much money, and stuff like Voyager keeps collapsing. He buys Voyager. I think they talked about trying to acquire Coinbase, which like, geez, good luck. Like if you're gonna be buying up, like if that happens, I'm gonna be scared. Honestly,
Jeez,
like
wow.
that would be a lot. That'd be a little crazy. But like he answers to no one. Kind of. He just does what he wants, and like there's something beautiful about that. Like why would he give that up to be like bought and paid for by everyone? I mean, I'm sure he's made some deals along the way, but like just the ability
Power.
to just be like, I like that, but the power he's got now of just I buy that, I do that, I write an article, people talk about me. Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
when
if
you
he's done yet. Maybe
well, that's what I'm
he's
saying. Like
more money.
when you make a certain amount of money, it's not about the money anymore. It's now, it's about the power. And you can only get so much power as an entrepreneur, as a business person. You only get so much. If you really want like real, let's say, coercive, I can kill people and get away with it kind of power, you have to get into politics, and this is a path. You buy your way in, literally. Like if it's not as a lobbyist, it's as a philanthropic donor to political campaigns. Ugh, I want to vomit saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting to see the path where Eric Voorhees trying to go outside the system, and you have people like Brian Armstrong trying to go inside the system, but from a good perspective, I would say, where FTX and SBF, Mr. Acronym, so evil. Also, as I pointed in the last podcast on this, isn't it kind of crazy that like this guy's literal name is Bankman? That had to be. It's like a super villain name. It's like, where did that come from?
Bankman-Fried, yeah, hyphenated Bankman-Fried. Like it's got a little kind of like, I mean, a little Jewish overtone there too. Like,
yeah, but especially it's just the acronym makes you so you don't see that he's the bank man.
I know.
It's like a Batman villain or something. The bank man. It's kind of funny. Well,
that's funny.
We'll flip to the MetaReset stuff for like the wrap up part. But if you had other questions, why don't you throw them into or discussion points? So why don't you throw them into the live super chat so we can jump on those?
Yeah, give me a sec here. I'll drop.
Yeah,
them
so
over there.
let me just see what. Obviously, like the thing is, these ideas are like past. These ideas are like past headlines, right? And there's past having like, oh, I saw this article and I thought this. It's like, no, it's just like way bigger than that. But anyway, let's pop back in over here. So obviously the MetaReset thing, but then future talk. Why we Web3 and identity management, why we want a Web3 and identity management out of the hands of government as banks as a prerequisite for the new free market economy. So Web3 and identity management, something had to have triggered this thought as something you wanted to bring up. So go for it.
Well, okay. So I'm, talking to different businesses who are in the cryptocurrency space, innovative businesses who are at the seed funding stage and development stages and concept stages. And they're shopping around their ideas to organizations like the DoD and JP Morgan and various mentorship, bit angels and angel investors, VCs of various kinds, Shark Tank type folks. And I'm advising some of them on some things. And I'm starting to see a schism form between this idea that is being promoted about Web3 and the presumption of safety that I think is kind of coming along with it, because people are using like wallets like the MetaMask wallet, and without understanding that 80% of the infrastructure for that is owned by JP Morgan and Consensus, and that transactions have been censored, right? And that is that's the definition of Web3 right now. So I guess what I'm saying is like there's this schism between the safety that's being promoted and assumed that's coming along with Web3, and what I would term true identity management, or what's kind of coming around as self-sovereign identity, where it's a non-governmental way to demonstrate that I am who I am, in a cryptographic way, without a honeypot being created, behind some kind of FICO score or social security number, or whatever identifying information the systems have on you, your bank accounts, your routing information, your address, all that kind of stuff, your physical geographic address, all those kinds of things
of the beast.
that tie you. And so this schism that I'm seeing is basically that it's those who trust the Web3 model as it's being fed to us, spoon-fed to us, and just going along with that because we're assuming that, all the cryptocurrency stuff is going to save us and it's going to work just fine and it's just going to work on the web just like it's being fed to us. I'm afraid not. That's what I'm discovering. No, and I want to be a voice to like alert people to that, because we need to get identity management out of the hands of government. And this is something that I think there are some people who are in this camp with me, but I think we need more people who are new entrepreneurs, who are cryptocurrency enthusiasts, who are traders and investors, even those who are interested in politics, to get identity management out of the hands of government and banks before we can really say that we've moved on to a free market economy, and the new free market economy that's coming, the one that those institutions and regulators are trying to prevent from happening. They don't want that. They don't want free economy, free market trades happening, because then they can't tap their siphon into every transaction like they currently do today for every drop of gasoline and every candy bar and everything that you buy from stores. They get a cut, and they don't want to give up that cut of everything that they get, because oh my God, what would they do? They would die. They would have to start serving their people in order to receive whatever I want voluntary taxes. That's that's the world I see. And we can't do that until identity management is out of the hands of those who are also controlling the money. So that's my story. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's one of those things where it's like the KYC cycle. I don't remember a lot of things because I'm not that old, but I do remember a time when KYC was not as ubiquitous as it is today. There's a lot of like cash only stuff. There's a lot of, and people still found a way to pay their taxes or whatever it was. And then over time, there started to become more and more things. So like, for example, when I went to college first, I managed to do it like without a social security number. Like I didn't use mine for many, many years, like religious objection or whatever the hell. And only a brief period of time did I dipped into that whole thing. And of course, the system makes you, but like it was easier to do that stuff back in the day. And now just everything is KYC. And then what happened with Web 2, I should say, like the web and Web 2 or whatever, is you had a lot of people where the email address became the ID, where it's just some way to authenticate. And so then it became a system where it's different from the old system, but it's because it's in charge of different things. You didn't need your ID for that. You could just be whatever email address is. But the thing is now through like data sharing and all that kind of stuff, but also through a lot of mandatory KYC stuff, they're trying to suck all that back into KYC. And now with Web3 and crypto, that's all just more free, whatever you want. It's the Wild West of whatever. And they're still trying to like suck all that back in. Now, the interesting part where the crossroads we're at is I think we have gotten as far as we can without having a digital ID of some kind. I think that we're at that split in the roads where one of the two ways, both of those ways that the road splits, takes us into digital ID territory. The question is it decentralized, pseudonymous, and private? Or is it government controlled and Orwellian? That's the choice we have to make. But we're at that point right now where it's just like, okay, a single cryptocurrency address is what you're using to sign in. Like really? Like, or are you juggling emails and like your email providers? Like you're always like swamped with shit. Like no one actually reads their email. Like what the hell is an email anyway? Like that whole thing is like not working. It's done. And then your single crypto address, which only works because of the account-based system of like Ethereum and stuff like that, where you just have one address, but there's a horrendous lack of privacy that's just not going to work. Just not going to work. But people are doing that so far that long, just because it's hard to read means they're like, I guess I have privacy. It's like, no, you don't. But so that's not going to last. So now we're going to see, can we get a private identity that's like Chuck, at Chuck's Conscious Screen or Chuck's Conscious Stream at Polygon or whatever the hell it is, whatever the thing is, but then you control that and you don't need, like you control that, but you have privacy in that too. Or is it going to be a thing where now it's just like a CBDC issued thing where it's like Chuck at fednow.org or whatever is, is that's going to be your thing and that's going to run everything. And then we just take all the oppressions of the 20th century and turn them into overdrive. So that's kind of the split we're at.
Right. And I'm afraid that, 80% of the population is going to fall into that camp that you just described because of the conditioned state that we're in. It's going to be like, well, that's how it is. We all have social security numbers and we all have bank account numbers. So, just go ahead and give them that, and then we can identify. We just need that. Like they're just assuming that we're going to have something to identify. Everybody has to be identified because otherwise people might just do free things. We can't have that. People making decisions on their own and transacting on their own, and God forbid making contracts among one another without the government knowing about it and being able to tax it. Like that's crazy talk, like they don't, it's just assumed that world where people are autonomous and managing their own affairs to that degree, like it just can't happen. Like, because we've outsourced so much of our personal protection financially, physically, we've all grown up in it now, at least here in America. People in, let's say, third world countries, they know what I'm talking about. Like they're like, I'm not giving my money to anybody. Like they're the ones conducting the Nigerian scams. They're the ones messaging you in Telegram, hey, I've got a great investment opportunity for you, and scamming stupid Americans out of their money. Like it's sad, but it's true. Like that's what's happening because they have more pressing matters. Like I'm going to die tomorrow unless I scam 3 people. Like it's they're very motivated, and the government is and the regulators and people who've grown up into these institutions and the boomers are so much in this bubble of that's just how it is. That's how the thing is, and it's all this hierarchical system that like they just can't believe could ever go away. And at the same time, people like you and me, we see it going away. We see it happening. It's like we're just the layers are peeling away, and it's just so obvious to us. And it's not going to be obvious to everybody else until it's catastrophic and it hurts a lot of people. But I really feel like critically, we need to have resolved before that collapse happens. We need to have good self-sovereign identity management practices. Otherwise, we can't do all these other things, because when the social security system is so corrupt that America sells the social security database to China because that's what they're going to do. They're going to sell it to China to pay off their debt. You know, then it's going to be like, well, fuck, like what the hell? What we need. There's not going to be protection there. The government is not out there to protect you and to give them our lives, our value, our effort, our attention in the way of our identity. I mean, I think we really need to make a sacred movement around this. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, and I do believe that just like everything, I think I'm very optimistic about the future. But that being said, it's not going to be for everyone. Like as this path diverges, it's like a hard, like I hate to use the crypto hard fork analogy, but it's like a hard fork where you split, and then there's going to be people on each chain. We're going to be okay, but some of the people on the wrong chain are going to get hosed so hard. And so like we have this free decentralized digital ID and the centralized digital ID like split. And the people like us are just not going to get onto the centralized one. Just not. Refuse. We're going to get on the good one. And a lot of people will get on the other one. That's not going to win out, I don't think. However...
Well, they'll make it look like it's winning in the beginning because you're going to be able to get your UBI and you're going to be able to fly and travel and whatever. They're going to make it... They're going to use the system to enable those people to just maintain their everyday lives and make it difficult for everybody else who opted out.
Yeah. The thing is, it's getting easier and easier to be on the opt-out side. So I think we're going to be okay on that side. We're just going to be a lot of people who are in the horrible version of the old system, like the new and improved evil version of the evil system.
And the more oppressive coercion 2.0.
They're just going to be like screwed on that thing until they hop over, if they survive to come over. But the thing is, the old system it's old compared to it's still a modern-ish system. It's old compared to what we're building, what we're on today. But most of the rest of the world is so far behind that because it takes years of a free market environment and a lot of money and a lot of stability and a lot of a lot of stuff to have the resources to build this Orwellian nightmare that we're in. And so a lot of the world just doesn't have a banking system that works nearly well enough to be censoring everyone the way ours is, for example. It's just not there. But then when you get this decentralized digital identity and you get crypto and DeFi and Web3 and NFTs and all this awesome stuff that's coming up, which is better, but not, super obviously better than the current system to like boomers maybe. You get all of sub-Saharan Africa would just all of a sudden they just get an upgrade to the latest shit. They don't need to go through we got to get your institutions and reform your court system and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to go through all these generations of this slow growth only to end up in a dystopian nightmare. You get to just go right to just plug right into the matrix, so to speak. You just get right there. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are just in probably the older generation and such in Japan, South Korea, Western Europe, US, Canada, kind of. They're going to be stuck in the new version of the old system. And they're going to be screwed. But I can't see it winning out because the rest of the world is not going to be able to just be are the Argentinians going to just sign up for FedNow accounts and use the Federal Reserve stablecoin? No.
Right.
No, they're not. So what are they going to do? Do they have the resources to develop their own version that works just the same with their digital ID and coordinate with all these different government? Probably not. But the people do have the resources to just be like, let me install MetaMask real quick. And then, or hopefully something better, but I'm using it as a metaphor. Let me install this Web3 wallet real quick, mint myself an NFT for my plot of land, an NFT for my cow. This is my cow. I'm going to just throw it on the NFT marketplace, and I'm going to take out a collateralized DAI loan on my cow that I just mint the NFT and then they're off to the races. They're just off to the future, and they don't need to care about this whole thing like we do. And I think it's kind of going back to the SushiSwap example. it's what a lot of people like Brian Armstrong have been harping about, saying we don't want the U.S. to lose out on all this innovation. It's not like is crypto going to succeed in a relatively unregulated state or not? The answer is it is. But is America going to get part of that? Or are they going to shut themselves out of the digital revolution? And so that's kind of where that thing is going. So as I tweeted out a little bit ago before the podcast, it's kind of we live in crazy times where the richest man in the world, the biggest media platform in the world, the biggest social media platform, and the biggest media personality in the world, among many other things, are somehow all fringe voices and underdogs, which it doesn't make sense. You're literally talking about that, but that's because they're the new kings, so to speak. And like, isn't Kanye like the biggest like media, the biggest like, he's like one of the biggest creative people, the richest or formerly richest creative people in the world, and then he's on the shit list too. It to a certain extent from his own doing. I'm not going to give Ye a pass on this one, but but like it's kind of funny because all the biggest and most important things are somehow fringe, but that's because they're not. They're just the next wave, and the old system is just dying.
Yeah, well, those things look like fringe when you're in the hierarchy, when you're in the system, and those new things don't align with the system, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in the matrix, anything not of the matrix looks fringe. Mm-hmm. Even if it's natural, even if it's been in existence for thousands of years in that natural state, if you haven't encountered it because you've been living in the matrix your entire life, it's going to look fringe to you, you know? Like there's plenty of people always ask, you know, like when, you know, has anarchy ever happened before? You know, what's a good example of anarchy? And there's so many good examples, but people can't see them. You know, conversation is anarchy. Cities, tribes, groups of people doing things, games are anarchy. It's not no rules, it's no rulers. You need to have rules. You need to have like, and I'm just using that as an example. Like there are things that people call fringe. And again, it's conditioning. Like I've been reading a number of books lately that have really kind of opened my eyes to really how different people are. You know, everybody thinks that everybody thinks the same. You know, it's like people who say nobody thinks that are way off base with whatever they're talking about. And are probably narcissists because they don't understand that there's somebody out there who thinks that, you know, and it might just be the person you're talking to, you know, like, so like, but that awareness of not only yourself and the inner shadow, but how other people think and behave and the emotions and thoughts that they live through and the attitudes that they develop. People are different, and some people are conditioned into the matrix, into this framework of thinking and this hierarchical system. And I am a bit of a heretic, and I have to kind of acknowledge that about myself. But and that means that I won't participate in certain things, and I won't do certain things, and I choose not to do certain things. But it's the same in a lot of ways as a person, an institutional investor who would never choose to put money in Bitcoin because it's still to this day fringe to them. You know, even Ray Dalio, I mean, he just turned around, did a 180 on Bitcoin, like, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. Wasn't that long ago.
Good for him. Finally.
Yeah.
Let's hit on this UX thingy. Or could it be?
Yes.
Because back-end and full-stack developers agree that front-end is more difficult. It's the reason why you still have limited front-end UX in crypto. You got to tell me where this came from.
So I was looking on Twitter, and a thread came up where a young female developer that I follow, and I just say that to give context because I think it's relevant. A young female developer that I follow basically said, hey, everybody at my office thinks that front end is more difficult than back end. And she's like, oh, by the way, I'm a back end developer, and I agree. and all of her back-end developer cohorts who have done full stack development or front-end development were like, yeah, it's definitely harder. And then the whole thread was like, yep.
Side shit post comment. If you are a personal trainer specializing in squats and other glute development, are you a back-end developer? Sorry. Keep going. I had to get that off my chest.
And as a person whose skill sets focus on the front end, right, I felt a little bit validated and affirmed, because I remember hundreds of different conversations where this very debate was happening, which is harder, front end or back end. And the reason I contend and have always contended that front end is more difficult is because back end developers, the only systems that they need to talk to are other systems. You write an API, you're talking to a database, and you're talking to other front end or other systems, other computer systems. Your clients, your actors are computers on both ends of this thing. But when you're working on front end, you have to know enough about the computer to talk computer, but also enough about the human using your system to talk to the human through the limited interactions that we can provide on a 2D flat screen. And that's not easy to translate from computer world to human interface world. And that's why there's a whole industry built on understanding the space between the human mind and these screens. It's a whole industry. It's UX, it's HCI, it's all these different things that I think they're not easy. They're not easy to do, and humans are kind of fucked, in the head. Like we're inconsistent, we're emotional, we can't say what we want. We can only behave into what we believe. We only behave in alignment with our beliefs, and that takes observation. It takes good observation to really build an interface, a computer interface with that structure that can take in all of the varied emotion and frustration and pain and joy that humans want to express through these systems. So I just think it's more difficult to kind of take that into account,
far more difficult.
And I think that's why I think that's the failing of a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space, is that they think that they think that the technology is the thing, and they forget that the technology only exists because there are these things that we call humans. Without humans, the technology is nothing. It has all of the value of Bitcoin is baked into the minds of the humans that use it. It's nowhere else. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, that's the thing that's pretty it's pretty funny about I totally understand, like looking into front end and UX, I totally understand why people are afraid that the robots are going to replace us. Because I mean, you realize the amount of technical debt the human species has inherited over the millennia of like what goes into the interface. Like you have to interface with this crazy biological machine that we are, that has so many different parameters and impulses that are left over from like the base survival of the species, like the reproduction stuff, and then you start to get to like tools and then social constructs. Like there's not enough information to be like, well, I think that this would be an optimal way of hunting buffalo. It's like, no, it's just all instinctual, but instinctual, like all those processes and data just baked in and just moving forward. Like that's the thing. I think that like clearly to a certain sense, the modern human is not created from like scratch. It came from all this history. And so you can't just say, what are the fingers? What can the fingers do? What is the goal of humans, and just program in a quick little interface that just allows them to do what they want. It's just like, no, you have to inherit like colors, the bright colors. Like this color looks nice. It's the berry. The poisonous berry color is the one that they want to avoid. Pressing the button, and then like the time, like the attention span, which has something to do with like making sure that like you're not being stalked by a predator. You're not sitting there all day.
Yeah.
And so we got to like get that in, and you got to, what about the urge to mate? How do we put the urge to mate into a front-end interface? Again,
Yeah.
sorry to go around to
Yeah.
that whole,
No,
you know,
that's it. That's it.
It's
There's
just,
a lot to account for.
yeah, it's just the most finicky, crazy machine in the world that you just got to like make a thing that works for. And there is a certain amount of art to it, right? And the art part, I guess, is accounting for information that you haven't documented yet, kind of. It's just like, so for example, I've seen some videos and stuff where they talk about what makes an expert, and it's literally just pattern recognition. And it's not like, just, whoa, he's so good. It's just like, no, through experience, I understand that this equals that equals this. And so there's a lot of pattern recognition that comes into understanding the human species that it's very difficult to write down on a piece of paper or, on a, GitHub commit or whatever about, this is how people react. This is the way the eyes go to here, there. There's a lot of still squishiness to it, which is just data you haven't codified yet, but it's still data. So that's what makes it hard, is you have to draw on your own human experience. Like whenever I design anything, like whether it's write an article, design like a podcast format, or whatever, I design it with myself as the end user. Like I literally use myself as the test subject to do that, because I don't know anything, because I don't know what people, because that's all I got. All I got is me. But
that's a great way. That's a great approach. I mean, the best way to understand other humans is to go deep within yourself, I think, because you are your own best subject. If you're a reasonably socialized, rational human being capable of understanding and articulating your own emotions, especially, like I think you need to have all that kind of, at least that baseline before you can really start to, be empathic with other people. But that's the thing. That's the difference, I think, between a blockchain developer, a cryptographer, a backend developer, and anybody who builds interfaces for humans, is empathy. Like you're not going to be good at building interfaces if you don't have empathy. And you can be a great backend developer without empathy. That's the thing. You don't have to be empathic. You don't have to understand. You can be a sociopath and be a great developer, but you can't be a sociopath and be a great UI or UX professional in any way, because the failures will mount. The disconnects will be too painful for people to use, and nobody will use your products. So that's the theory, is that, like, I think blockchain developers and a lot of people coming into the space, they're so, like, generally speaking, men, but also programmers, deal with things better than people. And that's kind of, honestly, that's one of the things that I've used to differentiate myself in my career, is I deal with people pretty well, almost as well as I deal with computers, so I try to balance that, and that's what I sell to organizations that I work at. But most cryptocurrency professionals, blockchain folks, Evan Duffield, all these people, probably Satoshi Nakamoto, a lot of these self-sovereign identity folks, a lot of these blockchain developers that I've talked to, like, they can tell you all the technology up and down, left and right, but when you ask them why it exists, they don't have a human oriented answer, and it's not about solving problems, and there's no empathy there, or rarely there is.
What is my purpose? You pass the butter. Oh my God.
I know the reference. I love that.
Yes. Let me hit on, so this last one. First off, Hilawe commented a little bit of an in-jug ball cream hour comment. There's this, I should just say that after the show, there's this thing called the after party, which is super secret, invite only right now. That at some point when it gets to like 11 p.m. or past, we enter what we call ball cream hour, where stuff goes off the rails. And I'll just leave that to your imagination. But so this finally went false gurus and messaging scams. Of course, things cut off a little bit with the comment, but
Oh
the
yeah.
trend of coaches, gurus, and investment opportunities in the crypto space. That'll be a great one to wrap this thing up on before we talk about MetaReset and all that stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. So
where'd this come
real
from?
real briefly,
Sorry.
there's there's it's happening in the spiritual community that there's been a lot of outings, of
Mm,
gurus who, let's say, who, well, I'll just come out and say it, like who molest their students, or cryptocurrency folks who are teaching the very basics of cryptocurrency. Power to them, spreading the message, but charging, charging $150 to do a a wallet setup, right? Uh, I don't know. I've probably set up hundreds of wallets. I don't know if I'm at the 1,000 mark, but I could be. Like, I've set up a lot of wallets for people, and I didn't get paid for any one of them. As a matter of fact, I probably gave a bunch of people crypto. I probably gave away $1,000 worth of crypto just to spread the message, to get people their first crypto. I'm pretty sure I'm at least in there. But the thing is, like, these we're getting these waves of scam artists who are coming in with their, hey, I'll teach you this, hey, I'll teach you that. And they're living in a bubble. They're living in a conditioned bubble because they think because they were the smartest person in the room when they were growing up at their elementary school, and now they're and throughout high school they got participation prizes, and mommy always told them that they were the best. Now they're coming out and thinking that they're the best, and I can teach you crypto, and they don't know the basics, right? I mean, they're charging people to do these things, and they're out there pushing, and they're putting up their Facebook ads, and I'm just seeing a lot of this stuff. It's kind of sickening, and I think that there are some good people out there who really teach good things, but those people give things away for free. They give away a lot of good content for free and teach you how to do things for free. And then when you want to level up and advance your skills, that's what they charge for, that one-on-one time that actually gets you to their level, whatever level they're at with whatever they're doing. And
yeah.
that's the right approach, in my opinion. But these false gurus who are coming out, they're no better than, the average Joe on the street who just happened to get a little bit of crypto education.
Yeah, that's been one of those things that I've been personally sort of, I wouldn't say struggling with, but like wrapping my head around, is because like no one has any education in crypto other than people who are like, I feel the only people who are qualified professionals in crypto are like the Zcash people, because they've been like in these cypherpunk mailing lists and doing these like cryptographic research papers and all, like, for like decades, right? The only people that, like, everything else is just new, and the only way you're an expert is if you're in the stuff, meaning you build it yourself, which I can't code for shit, front end or back end. I'm not a developer much at all, but I could decide to be the guy to just like live off of it and use it and stuff like that. And that's how I built my expertise. But still, there's this like, I guess, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome, about like, I know way more than the average person on this subject, and valuable information to them. But it still feels a little weird trying to like monetize that to a certain extent.
Exactly. Like, I've seen people like in threads on Twitter and chats on Facebook basically saying, I want to live off crypto, or even bragging, I've been living off crypto for X months. And I'm like, do any of you even know who Joel Valenzuela is? Like, he's been doing this for years. Like, and I'm like, and these are the, exactly. And I'm like, they're like, let me teach you how. And I'm like, oh, you've been doing this how long? 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to teach other people? Really? Like, you don't know, you don't know what Joel went through.
Well, let me make this deeper though. I did this tweet on Wednesday. I'll just say, once you realize that most of what people say is jockeying for social status, everything makes a lot more sense. And that's literally what the guru thing. I mean, some of it, there's always a 20% utilitarian part of that, which is, oh, you have knowledge. Knowledge make Oog get food and shelter. Share knowledge with Oog. Like, there's a bit of that primal, which is, it's very utilitarian. I want to know what you know, so I may have the thing. But
Right.
and
Right. Well, and
that's
that's
a
the
very
whole coaching industry right now. Like that's why
well.
the coaching industry is thriving.
Well, that is the excuse for the coaching
Yeah.
industry to thrive. That's
Right.
just that's like the first one's free. That's what gets you in the door. Is that primal like this is utilitarian? You want to know, and that's what I'm 100% committed to myself. I mean, I do this, which is just much squishier, just education, opinion, whatever the hell, looking at trends, all that stuff. But as far as like showing people how to like, I believe that living on crypto and using it in your day to day life is an important thing to be doing, and I can show you exactly how, and that's just and I'm never going to go weirder than that. Oh, the secrets of the mysteries of the Sith or whatever the hell. Like, I don't give a shit. Never going to go into that stuff. But the thing is, most of what people do in like the guru thing, humans are an insanely social being. In fact, the older I get, the more I realize we are a paradox in that we're complete individuals, but also part of a hive mind. And I don't.
Oh yeah.
And the hive mind part is what has been growing, what I've kind of noticed, as far as like when people say things, like for example, when people express a political opinion, 90% of the time, maybe 95, maybe more, they don't believe all those things that they profess. They don't believe most of those even. They believe enough of them, but they're signaling I am with this tribe, and they're trying to get that idea up. And the guru thing,
they're echoing conditioning.
Yeah, and without getting too into the guru thing, but the guru thing is the same thing where someone is trying to be. They don't want to just say, "I have knowledge. You will pay for it. I will share it. I will take money." Business, like, nah, that's not it. That's 10 to 20% of it. They want the social status. They want to be the guru. They want to be the whatever else. Like, what does Tony Robbins actually do? I mean, he has some interesting practical psychological tips on how to do better in your life. Like, oh yeah, you're telling yourselves the wrong thing. You should try these mantras, say these things, use things. You'll do better. But like that's 90% of what he's selling though is the guru thing. And I'm not picking on Tony Robbins, but like I'm saying like 90% of what it is just like we're part of something bigger and I'm the epicenter of the something bigger, and then people buy into that sometimes because they're gullible, but also because they think once they're in the rotation, now everyone else Ponzi's them up too. It's just like all these people talking about like crypto is so fascinating in this thing, and shout out to Nicole who was on my podcast. Was it last time or 2 times ago? I don't remember. 2 times ago. Because her whole thing is crypto tribalism and stuff. She's done a whole lot of research into that. It's just fascinating because this is just literally like, who is a tap and pay evangelist who doesn't just work for Visa or MasterCard? Like no one. No one's just like, oh, you know what, tap and pay or die, and wearing T-shirts and shit posting on Twitter and being like, I'm a tap and pay maximalist. I'm having little MasterCard shiny eyes. And no one does that. It's not a social movement. It's how you pay. It's it. And Apple kind of made like, oh, I'm an Apple guy. I'm like, the technology. They kind of added that social cult element to it a little bit. But even then, a lot of people use Apple products from a utilitarian purpose. 90% of Android people is for utilitarian / lack of financial resources purposes, right? Like, there's so much of that. But crypto is so tribalistic because people are trying to say, okay, BSV is, which by the way, speaking of BSV, Craig Wright finally blocked me today, so big milestone.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even saying anything.
You've made it.
Yes. But so what happens with it, like somehow if you believe this is the only Bitcoin that scales and Satoshi and all this like crap that comes around this thing, people not only buy into this guru nonsense because it doesn't actually solve their problems. They don't need any crypto for anything, really. Most of these people buying into it, they not only want their bags to be pumped, of course, everyone wants some money, but they want to be part of this idea because they think if this idea gains strength, they gain status. So like if they are a BSVer, let's just say, but then all of a sudden he wins a bunch of court cases and oh my gosh, he's the super Satoshi man. And then then they're somebody now because I'm part of it, and I got in and I Ponzi'd my way up into this sort of ephemeral like social status idea, and just
it's the beta
it
way
made
to
me
climb
less
the ladder.
to finish that. It's made me much more sympathetic, maybe not empathetic, but sympathetic towards people, because I used to get frustrated, angry because they would say stupid things and do stupid things.
Right.
But now I realize
Right.
that it's not from the rational perspective they're stupid, but they're
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
just fighting their way up that social status thing.
And you're right. Yeah, it also circles around this idea that we are social creatures and that these egos are it's how we live, in this world, So people and we have a great desire to have a good opinion of ourselves. And so for those whose self opinion is heavily driven by the perception of others, as it is with narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, and degrees of people on that spectrum. People who basically can't soothe themselves emotionally or build themselves up emotionally. They need that external validation. For those people, looking like a guru, looking like you have information, whether you actually have it or not. And it doesn't seem to matter to those people whether they actually have it or not. I feel like those people deal with imposter syndrome less than people who actually care about the information that they're sharing. No, you're right. It's more about social status. It's about ego. It's about presence. It's about image. It's about which ultimately is, I think some kind of trauma childhood thing that they're just attention seeking. Mommy or daddy didn't give them enough attention when they were growing up for some way, or they were abused or beaten or whatever. Like there's a need. And I struggle with this idea because, hey, look at us. Literally, like we're broadcasting on a show. Look at you. Look at me. Look at us. We're talking. We're smart, right? I don't want to fall into that guru trap, So I like trying to come out and say, I'm not your guru. I'm not. I am somebody who's experiencing this existence, and I love to share it with you. But people who come to me, approaching me, saying, "Hey, I have an investment opportunity," and that's your introduction, to me on Telegram. Like I get 3 or 4 of those a week now,
Wow.
and I'm like, okay, I give everybody a chance. I'm like, what brings you to my screen? And they usually start with something like, oh, I want to be your friend. I'm like, okay, here's my rules for friends. And I list them, like I want to be connected. I'd love to have some face time. I want you to value freedom and have reasonable conversations about that. And then it's like, well, let's be friends and just talk online. I'm like, I use chat to organize
They're
business.
angling for something. Which, by the way,
Right?
I mean, you do have a very guru appropriate voice, and so I need to get you. I need to get you a T-shirt that says, "I'm not a guru. I just sound like one."
Yeah, I just play one on the radio or podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Before
I like that.
Before we wrap up on the MetaReset thing, I saw something else. It's not not crypto related, but it is Twitter related, and it was like a little bit of a mind. Like it's just anyway. Oops, the screen doesn't really show. Let me fix this real quick. So here we have. So Elon Musk obviously tweeted, "The bird is freed," but then Thierry Breton, who I guess is some evil bureaucrat person, says, "Hi, Elon Musk. In Europe, the bird will fly by our rules." With the
That's a
European
Euro flag.
Like, this is when you're talking about
Regulator's going to regulate.
the NPC world. Like, that is peak NPC. There is just nothing else to say about that, really.
Right? Our rules. Okay, well, okay. Who's making those rules? And are they reasonable rules? And are they rules that should be broken? And is it even possible to enforce your rules? Like there's a lot to question with that.
Yeah, it's the old nonsense. Let's shill MetaReset real quick and do your
MetaReset,
CTA.
live to earn. We're having an NFT launch October 31st, and there is, I believe, there's going to be 10,000 Meta People launched. They're going to be Meta People NFTs, limited supply of NFTs that will have changeable features. Those will be usable to acquire property and assets within the world of MetaReset. That'll be a 2D launch initially, and then we'll go into a 3D world eventually. Sometime next year is the plan. I'm working with MetaReset as the values advocate. And so the founders wish to remain pseudonymous, and the plan for the DAO, the MetaReset DAO, is to basically hand it off to the community. So the founders aren't in it to make a whole bunch of money. They just want to make a contribution to the world of the metaverse in an ideologically free manner. And they've asked me to help them maintain a course towards a truly decentralized network where there aren't hierarchical systems in control, and people's ideologies can be expressed. So I'm excited about it. Very interested in MetaReset and what it's going to do for the space. And I am encouraging friends and families to, if you are interested in the world of NFTs at all, consider getting one of these MetaReset NFTs. So that's the shill.
The guru has spoken. Buy his NFT. Which, by the way, I'm not going to shill it too hard until I get my page up, but I do have in the bio, there's a little wave. You could buy a wax NFT that gets you to the super chat, so you could say all that nonsense you saw in there. And that's kind of what they look like. That's all I'll say on that until I get a cool page going. Again, the UX UI, the front end is not sufficiently developed on that thing. Like, it's one of those learning experiences where I said, oh, look, cool, shiny thing. I made some. And then you get them, and the utility's there. But like the UX of the onboarding process is just like, it's potato. It's not that good. And so I needed to get to like a one-click thing where I'm just like, hey, you go here, buy it. So where people are watching the show and they're like, I want to get in there. And then they quickly open another tab and they can just buy an NFT and just pop right in mid-show. Whereas like right now I need to kind of hold their hand for a while and all this nonsense.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I'd love to try and figure that out with you because, I mean, I'm on the market. I was going to throw that out there too. Screenscholar.com. If anybody wants to set up a meeting with me, screenscholar.com. That gets me. That's my professional resume. And
are you wearing a shirt in these these meetings you're setting up?
Well,
is there a premium? Is there a premium for the slip? Like,
I don't go that far. No, it's not like OnlyFans. No. This is UX oriented, or hey, let's figure out what you want to do, and we can figure out whether we can help each other. I have a little bit of room for some contract work right now, for anything in the realm of UX, project management, product ownership, front end development, full stack web development, those sorts of things. So, I'm open to
and work. So, and you said that's screenscholar.com. But it's kind of a cool name. Surprised you managed to camp on it for so long.
Yeah, I've been sitting on it for a real long time. The original thinking was back in the day, I've been doing front end development for 20 some years. I have a couple patents under my belt, and I figured,
patents.
I'm an
just like
patents?
Craig Wright.
Oh my God.
I have all the patents.
Oh, is that his gender pronoun now? Is that what he's going by?
Patent
and patent.
Yes.
I've just been at it for a long time, and a lot of people, when they see that name, Screen Scholar, they think film, and I'm not really much of a film buff, so I've considered rebranding, but my thinking was, screens are where the interface and interactions happen, and I have a long history with them, so that's where the scholarly aspect came.
I will put something else up on the screen real quick. Unstoppable Domains, screenscholar.crypto, $40.
Oh, it's for sale.
You get your. Damn it! Did I just ruin it for you? Are people going to jump on this and camp? Hopefully not.
I hope
but you
not.
can mint it on as a Polygon NFTs. I have one for my company, and so you can get that. And then also you could put screenscholar.com onto back it up onto IPFS. So then screenscholar.crypto takes you to the IPFS version of the site, and it's all cool and backed up. I'm not paid by these people, but if they want to throw me back, they can. I just thought that's cool. Just another way of like throwing a less centralized element into, a less old school element, I should say, into thing. Web3, all the things. Let us wrap it up then. Let me just see if, I see. I'm gonna show the live super. Don't say anything too naughty. So Hilawe, of course, says Chuck's voices as ASMR could sell. All value is subjective. All values belief. Repeat it over and over again.
Yeah.
All values belief.
Right.
It's time for bed.
All
now.
value is belief.
That'll be 0.1 Bitcoin. All right. Pay the man. That's how this thing works. All right. This is getting ridiculous. It's time to wrap this thing up. See you guys next week. There might be a Dash podcast next week. I'm 90% sure. So
Dash.
Regular show, then Dash podcast with the CrowdNode folks. Now that they've released their trustless shares thingy onto testnet and need more testers and stuff like that. But you get to talk to them all about that next week. Hopefully, 90% sure. I'll make an official announcement when that is a thing. But anyway, everyone follow Chuck. Look up Chuck's. I just call you Chunk. I'm sorry. Chuck's censored stream on Twitter. What is it? It's Chuck Williams 37, right? That's your handle?
Yeah, Chuck Williams 37. Yep.
Just look him up everywhere. Follow him everywhere. And just demand that he comes back on the podcast, and he will be back.
Yeah, all those links are available at screamscholar.com. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, and you can schedule me on Calendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, everyone. It's been a pleasure. See you around.
Yeah.
See you in the after party. If you know, you know. If you don't, see you next week.